Welcome back to CIDAN Machinery. Today, we're going to program a box gutter and then take that box gutter and make it into an X taper or a conical part. All right, so let me log in here and we'll get started. All right, we have our blank screen here. The first thing we have to do is draw a basic box gutter. So I'm going to draw that for us here really quickly. And we'll drag and drop all this stuff here. I'll have to go back and edit some of these. Oh, it's real simple to do. All right, so 90 degrees. And inches. Okay, to be inches. Be 5 inches. Okay, and I think we're good here. All right, let's spin that around. All right, so now we have our basic box gutter drawn. If you just wanted to run this as a non-conical or non-tapered part, you could go ahead and prepare and sequence this and run it. But we're going to make this what we call a pluggable or a conical part. All right, here we go. Here is our icon to do that. So when you press the icon the first time, what it's going to show you is the pluggable feature. If you look over here, all right. And what we mean by that is when you make a tapered part, this gutter system is probably on one end or the other going to be connected into something potentially. All right. And if you see those green lines that are defined there, what these green lines are telling me is wherever the green lines are, this is what we're going to be plugging into or plugging over. So in this case, what we're going to be doing with this gutter is it's going to fit inside of some sort of device, okay, be it a collector or what have you, all right? And if I choose the other option, it'll go the other way. So this is telling me that whatever collector I have has a male extension to it, and then our gutter is going to fit over that on the ends of the gutter. Now, this is not to do with the tapered where you're overlapping, where you want your water flow to go in one direction or the other. This is only where it connects on the ends, okay? So essentially what it will do in this case, since it's got to fit over the collector, if I program this at 4 inches, 5 inches, and 5 inches, which I did, when it's calculating my tapered numbers, it will never let these numbers get smaller than that defined number so that it will still fit over the top, all right, when I plug it in. And when I go the other direction, this end of the gutter or the end of the gutter here will fit inside of whatever collector I have. So if I type my 4 inches, my 5, and my 5, which we did, all right, then it will not allow these numbers to get any larger than that number, so that they will always calculate smaller so that this will plug into whatever is on the ends of your run of tapered parts, okay? So once you've established that, and if you're not connecting it to anything, then it doesn't really matter. You can choose one or the other, okay? It doesn't really affect how the flow goes of these gutters, all right? And we hit next. So the next function is, it give me just my gutter with a basic tapered feature, okay, with some default values, all right? It needs those, it puts those default values in so that it has a starting point. Okay, and now from here, we will define what we want. But the first thing we should talk about is the flow. All right, let me zoom this in for us a little bit. All right, you see here, it's got a 3.94 overlap, and the flow right now is from left to right. If you look over here, we have our flow direction. Now, if we go here and click the other one, you can see right on the screen that the flow direction is going in the opposite way. Okay, and then we have here, you can select the triangle, show you when we're calculating our taper, everything that's any excess is going to come out in that very first bend, if that's where you want it to go. Or there's blue squares, all right, these blue squares go here, and that will make all of the excess go into the other end of the part. In this case, the nailing strip, and that's going to be the most common thing that you do is put it in the nailing strip. But if you have a part that you're trying to maintain some symmetry to on the two ends, then you can select this icon, and this icon will divide it between the two. But for my case, we're going to put that in the nailing strip. All right. So now we have a few rules up here. And what these rules are doing for me is whenever I give it my scenario, what size I want my gutters and how much coverage length I want, it's going to take and give me a couple of different scenarios. One of those scenarios is the auto. And let me give it the total length. Let's just say we want 500 inches of coverage, and we want our blanks to be 120 inches long. And we want an overlap of we'll say 3 inches. Okay. Now, the machine knows that at 500 inches of total coverage with 120-inch blanks, that it won't divide evenly. So it's saying, hey, you need 5 of these pieces at 102.4 inches, right? But if you want to do that, that's fine. But most people don't. They want to cut 10-foot pieces and they trim them off in the field. So auto is not the option for you for this. Okay. Then you have auto plus, right? Auto plus will say, hey, I got a total length of 500. I want them to be 120 inches long, and I want 3-inch overlap. And it'll say, okay, here, I'll give you as many 120s as I can, but you're going to have to make a splice piece at 32 inches. Again, you're out in the field. No one's going to want to make that piece. Next option is going to be manual. And more people are going to use this. It doesn't mean you have to program everything manually. This just means you have to define it manually. And it will do what you tell it as long as you don't give it a scenario that the back gauges cannot accomplish. All right, so I've told it 120-inch piece, not the coverage area. Now, like it said before, this is how long do I want each piece. And I want it to give me 5 parts, and I want a 3-inch overlap. And then it says, hey, there are 5 of these. They are 120 inches long, and here's how much area that is going to cover. If that's not enough coverage area, add another piece to it. 6. It will recalculate. Now it will give me 6 pieces of 120 inches, and it will cover 705 inches, right? If I'm satisfied with that, we can come here, we hit confirm, right? And from that point, it shows you the whole setup, okay? And if I zoom in on it, all right, my overlap is from right to left. I have a 3-inch overlap, and these are my pieces, all right? It shows all of them on the screen, right? The next thing to do is hit prepare and run. When you hit prepare and run, it starts to generate that program for you. If you notice, it gives me both sets of back gauge dimensions here, okay? And let's see what sequence it shows. Sometimes it gives me what I want. Sometimes I have to modify it. That's so far so good. And now on the last part, we know we're not going to bend it in that direction, okay? What the machine tries to do is keep the largest flange of the two on the back gauge. So we'll come here, and we will part rotation. We'll flip that around. Now it's where we want. Let's run that scenario again. All right. If you want to see a better detail of that, you can also put it in 3D, right? So you can see what's going on. And we'll run it one more time so everyone can see that in 3D. Okay. And I can manipulate the 3D as it's showing me the preview. Okay. So we've written our part. All right, we know what size blank to go cut, 19.585 inches. It's going to be 120 inches long, and we're going to save it. All right, and we're going to go out to the machine and run one of these. Let's go take a look.